Now this feels like a debate because I feel like we are on opposing sides here. I'm just trying to find who is which. But I think that for the most part we are on the same side here. I mean, we're all from Ukraine, and we unfortunately had to witness the horrible events of the full-scale invasion. And to start to give a sort of introduction for our guests here, I would like you to share how did the full-scale invasion start for you? How was the day of the 24th of February start for you? What were you doing? Maybe what were your fears? What were your expectations? What did you do? Maria?
Yeah, I'll start. Hello, friends. My name is Maria. I'm a member of parliament representing hero city Kharkiv, which is the furthest eastern part of Ukraine. For me, the 24th of February started, well, let's say timely a little bit earlier, because I couldn't fall asleep for a very long time. I kept on receiving messages from my siblings from across Ukraine. They were sending me something that was already distributed in many information telegram channels, that something would happen, what should be the actions. I must tell you that our, let's say, instructions that were given to the parliamentarians were the only one line. We have, whatever happens, we have to make sure we come to our workplace, which are the committees of the Verkhovna Rada. So my committee of EU integration is just around the corner from the parliamentary building. And I was awake with the first sounds of explosions. And I ran up to my phone to text to our group chat, the party chat that we have. And I even did the screen of this message because I said, has it started? And the chairman of our political fraction, he said, yes, you know what to do. And I was like, what? I don't know what to do. And I was standing in front of my wardrobe thinking, well, realistically, what may happen today? We can be killed. A rocket may arrive into the parliamentary building. I can be killed on the way to the parliament, which is not very far, but still. I took my pass for the parliament, passport, I'm not sure, my phone, I dressed up. I didn't even have time, you know, to do the makeup or anything. I looked terrible. The girls would understand me. But I was holding in myself a very good reassurance that this is not the end. We will have a very long and interesting way ahead. But I think we are sharing with Maryan one thing. We arrived to the parliament. I was one of the first members to arrive because there was a confusion. Some members went to other places for some reason. And by the time when we voted, 7 a.m., I was one of the first ones to go on national TV to say to the people, look, we haven't left the country, we're here. I'm not saying where we are, but obviously in the parliament, about to vote the martial law, and we are with our people. We haven't left, we haven't gone anywhere. I'm not, you know, I'm not commenting on those who did. There was a very, very low number of them. And the feeling was very ugly, because I'm not a soldier. I saw people mobilizing across. I'm a politician, but I have to be responsible and quite active. And I will end up here. The moment I left the parliament after the voting, after the martial law, and we first sang the anthem, national anthem, a cappella, so with no music, and that's our new tradition. I arrived to the apartment I rented in Kiev. The bombings were going on. I went to the bomb shelter. Internet was very low. And I immediately contacted the Council of Europe Parliamentary Assembly, where we work together with Czech, Poles, French colleagues, Germans. So we are 46 countries. Used to be 47. And that was the day, 24th of February 22, when the decision was taken that we will start the process of expelling Russia. So I think this day will always be remembered for me as something that we still did with colleagues without being able to do much. But eventually history will look at it, I think, as a historical moment. Thank you.
Thank you for your effort. Maryan, what about you?
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here, especially those who come from abroad. You probably are much more comfortable in your home countries, and let's be open, sometimes it's a little bit scary here, which is true, so thank you again for your courage for coming here. My story was much different, because to be honest, back in the beginning of January, I thought that the attack date would be 22nd of February 2022. I spent gazillion number of times trying to analyze whether it will happen, it will not happen, and all the logic in me was telling me, of course not, it's ridiculous to attack a country with 180,000 troops like that. But then I thought, wait a second, why am I assuming that he's rational and not an idiot? What if he is? Then I was starting to think, okay, what kind of thinking he has, how irrational is he? And then I started scrolling through different things. I remember that he really wanted to attack Georgia at 8th of August 2008. And there were a couple of articles that he likes numerology, he likes concurrent numbers, whatever. And then I remember that Yanukovych, the pro-Russian president that we had, fled on the 22nd of February 2014. And the war that he admires the most, that was won by Peter the Great against the Swedes, started also on the 22nd of February. I said, okay, he will not deny himself symbolism for any reason, and that concurrency, he probably feels that it is his destiny or whatever bullshit like that. And as it turns out, all the war plans that we later captured, the attack date was truly 22nd of February 2022. It's just that for some reason FSB have convinced him that they have internal groups in Kyiv that would start the whole thing. It was not working out, so they had to delay it forcibly by the attack order. So actually, since February 21st of February was already here. It had many reasons, but I thought what use would be for me in Kyiv? Probably nothing. I would be safer in Lviv and probably would start bringing supplies immediately, although it was still quite a big shock for me. But to be honest, I still remember the afternoon of 23rd, and I saw all of our parliament websites being crashed, government not working, and I do remember that the same thing happened in Georgia. So I was 100% confident that the next day the attack would come. So still in shock, but quite honestly convinced about the dates, pre-prepared about 1.5 months ago. I just didn't want to sound like crazy and telling everyone, look, he believes in dates or whatever. And so that's how I met it.
Thank you. Well, it seems that you've successfully reached into a new question I was about to ask, is that by this date, it's obvious that Russia had some other plans at the initial start of the invasion. They had the other plan that this conflict would unfold and what they would reach and the objectives they would achieve. And currently, I suppose they have some other plan and some other objectives probably. So why don't we start with at least your idea or at least your concept of what the Russians were hoping to achieve during the start of the full-scale invasion, and then we will try to compare it to what we have now. So Maria?
I think for us in the East, it was very clear that it will never stop with capturing parts of Donetsk, Lugansk, temporary occupation of the peninsula of Crimea. I always felt that, you know, something will be continuing further on. The strategy, that's okay.
It's okay, that's just electricity, don't worry.
But I'll continue, friends.
5 minutes is going to be all be back.
Yeah, I can speak up. So the strategy was to continue, but I think Kremlin was still developing different plans. The miscalculation was that, for instance, Kharkiv, as used to be mostly a Russian-speaking city, many people are converting into speaking Ukrainian only right now for obvious reasons. And language is also the mean of weapon, culture, language, in general, cultural identity. They miscalculated. They thought, you know, in Kharkiv, in Mariupol, Berdyansk, Melitopol, and Odessa, other cities, many cities and villages who openly resisted for many weeks and even months, and this resistance continues even in the peninsula of Crimea currently, might not be very visible, but sometimes very obvious with you know, the drones and other things that are the new means of warfare of this war. They miscalculated. We were not welcoming them with sort of, I don't know, what was that, pirogi or whatever, these dumplings and flowers, whatever they were expecting over there. They saw that a tractor can drag a tank. Then this tank would be serving on the side of Ukrainian army. They saw that the resistance in the villages, because for instance, many of them were under half a day sort of occupation when they were trying, the Russians were trying to negotiate with local authorities, but local authorities were refusing to do that. They were not expecting to see iPhone or iPad or flat TV on a wall of a grandma in Irpin or Borodyanka or Shevchenkove in Kharkiv region. They could not understand how developed we are. They were angry, they envied us, and in a way it's a clash of civilizations. I don't like this subject, but I want you to hear this example. There are so many people and children in Russia who are droning in toilets which are located outside of the houses. I'm not joking, there is a very clear you know, numbers of that. They're droning, I'm sorry to say it, but because of the absence of the normal infrastructure for living. Of course, the West, we should not only talk about, but let's not call it the West, but collective camp of friends of Ukraine. Yeah? When I was given an interview on CNN and the lady told me, she interrupted me, they always do it because it's not enough time, and the lady goes, yeah, Maria, all that is understand, you resist, you are united, all that, but it's not about how Kiev will fail, it's about when it will fail. And I was like, I made it up like my internet is bad, and I promise you, I went in tears. And we all mobilized internally, externally, I think also politically, we showed that there is no opposition or majority party. Everyone were united across the country. The miscalculations, so we were not expecting them with an open heart. Secondly, the documents that Putin viewed before conducting this top crime, the crime of aggression and the crime of invasion, which is a repeated crime. It occurred, sorry, it works. So it occurred in Moldova, it occurred in Georgia, it occurred several times in Ukraine. Not only, we can talk about the local dimension of indigenous people across Russia. But this is the favorite crime of Putin and his gang, is a crime of aggression, the mother crime of all. Why we try to set up an international tribunal for that? Because this top evil has to be defeated and the justice has to prevail. So the, you know, he thought nothing would happen. But look what we have today. We have the expansion of NATO by 2 members. Colleagues of mine in the Council of Europe in January, just before the invasion, told me, from Finland and Sweden, Maria, it will never happen. Okay, the colleague from Sweden said, yeah, my grandma lived under occupation, but I'm sure Russia will not do anything. Look at what is happening next to the Baltic states. Now, the open statements of the fact that they can initiate further steps. The German generals are openly stating today that they expect by 2029 extra aggression on NATO allies. And I think the realization came at once to many in some months or some years, because this aggression lasts already for almost 11 years for us. And I think the fact that impacted at least more than 100 countries across the world, 1.7 billion people across the globe, put in many states, for instance, in Africa at the level of starvation, changing completely the energy sector, putting at threat so many democratic and freedom things that we were fighting for. So let's say vanishing us in one day. I think many of these plans that were so perfect on that table in Kremlin for Putin were not perfect on the ground. And indeed, we have proven, and my last point, not us, but the brave army of Ukraine, including amazing people from foreign states, Czech Republic, Poland, US, Canada, the Latin American, across the globe, who are serving shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian army. We have proven that we can resist, in the brackets, second army in the world. Not even technologically, not in numbers. That is a real answer to aggression. So we stood, we have planned accordingly because the challenges were very different, and we stand until today. So I think the only way is to support our common goals for freedom currently.
It's a wonderful overview of what's been going on. Maryan, I would like you to maybe provide more details on what do you think went wrong? What was the error that the Russians made? And well, it's obviously very easy to underestimate the enemy, and so it would be irrational for us to think that they do not learn from their mistakes. And what do you think the mistakes? Do you think they did their homework? Do you think that the Russians understood what they did wrong and are now trying to reshape their strategy?
Okay, the main thing, what went wrong for them, is that Putin went completely insane, and he has a completely distorted view of the world. He truly believes that he has some historic mission, that some higher power guides him through numerology, and by following some footsteps of Peter the Great and by repeating this and these steps, he would achieve something. Because all of his advisors are not as insane as him, but all they are interested in is just in embezzling money, they say, of course, even more so. And when he gives orders, develop whatever new range of tanks, new everything, they embezzle absolutely everything that they can see. For example, the first UAVs that they were using, Orlan 10, we disassembled them. Their assembly cost is maybe $3,000, maybe. It carries just an average Nikon camera. They were selling it to the Russian army at 100,000. So it's not just corruption, it's complete and full embezzlement. And all of the money that they've spent on special operations here for bribing people and everything, it never worked. They were approaching some people on the inside and giving crazy money. We found some of those groups. $10 million for you for future attack. Yeah, sure, give me $10 million. In reality, what happened is maybe of an FSB agent, since it's all cash and it's not something that you can realistically have a good accounting for, took 9 for themselves, gave 1 million to Ukrainians, and then said, we have 200,000 troops, whatever bullshit on the inside, ready to attack Kyiv and everything. So basically everything that they prepared for an attack was stolen, embezzled, and it was also a principal question of ego for Putin, for it to be not full-scale war, but he specifically wanted special military operation. Why so? Because he wanted to show to Americans that I can invade Ukraine with the same number of troops that you invaded Iraq. So he specifically, despite all the advising, just because of his ego said, no, I want this. And then, of course, people around him, not to lose his job, found a way to convince him, yeah, that's possible. So it all comes basically from the insanity of one old man, and with corrupt people around him that will play to whatever bullshit idea and whatever bullshit strategy that he will think of based on his numerology, ego, and etc. So that's why they thankfully failed.
So this is the question to both of you probably. Do you think there are rational actors in Russia that actively and rationally try to, well, follow through with the invasion? Just to, well, they understand that if Russia does as it does now, they probably would not win the war against Ukraine. So does Russia have like some sort of rational people that try to find ways to win anyway, or anyone that will just try to like mitigate the costs, for example?
Look, through all of its history, Russia has been nothing but an expansionist state, right? Every single unfreedom anywhere in the world, communist China, communist North Korea, communist Cuba currently, Venezuelan regime, whatever through history, it all came from Russia. It's like a disease, right? It never, ever, ever stops. What we are fighting for freedom, students for freedom. Tell me a country that had unfreedom and who wasn't, and that unfreedom or dictatorship was not put by Russia or not supported by Russia. Maybe a few examples in Africa.
I was thinking too, Africa, something like this.
But all of the other countries, all totalitarian regimes, one way or another, installed by Russia. So, of course, given 140 million people, not all of them are like that. But for some reason, that mentality in them always wins. There is in Russia what they call domestically the party of silence. So their prime minister and whoever, just people who do not care about that expansionism and who care only about embezzlement. But those are the best characters that they have, who care more about embezzlement, and they think that they could have earned and spent money better if not for the war. That's the only position really that they have.
I think a little bit in an opposite way, in a sense that they are quite rational and they're not insane. They know what they do, they have the calculations, and they have a goal. With strong Georgia, strong EU project, strong Ukraine, they will never complete the idea of restoring so-called empire. In many resolutions of the Council of Europe, we call them fake empire, we call Putin illegitimate, so we name all that things legally. But I think, friends, historically, we constantly have to look back. Not to say, who baptized whom first. Well, it was us who baptized those small lands. Because regardless who is chairing, let's put Putin aside. Let's put the names aside. It's the Secret Service KGB project constantly which is trying to impose this theory that Russia is great or greater than others or prevails in some ways above other nations. So they took the right to say that we don't exist as Ukrainians. They're doing that for hundreds and hundreds of years, that our language doesn't exist, our culture doesn't exist. They take our artists and writers and call them Russians. So these narratives are very powerful and they're spread so well that people started to believe in it. I think currently, only now, only after 11 years of this war, of the more modern Russian-Ukrainian war, because the war goes on for centuries, as I said. We're trying to restore historical justice and rebuild our identity, and this is very important. The best thing which happened after the Second World War is there are, I think, two projects. One is politically economical one, which is EU, what we know today as EU, starting from coal and steel agreement. And second one, military political, which is NATO. I think many of you know, because many of you also studied international relations in general. And if you remember, in 2008, when Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Belarus were united in one program called Eastern Partnership to start its way to the EU, Russia was also invited. What Russia said? We don't care. We don't want to join you. This is not our values. Their values is to kill, to rape, to lie, and to twist the things. they thought the world would not stand with us. You know, we would be abandoned, we will not receive weapons, there will not be 15 packages of sanctions. I must tell you, talking about SWIFT, I did it for 9 years, like daily. Let's ban all Russian banks from SWIFT. It's globally, why they will not be able to do the international transactions. April 22, we had to have full scale to start doing that. So diplomacy is very protracted thing in time, but I think what institutions could do for us and jointly, they could start reacting fast. That's why we also could start stopping the aggression. And I think rationality is always there. They know that, and one last thing, from the philosophy of how, because they had to explain it to the world. When Putin was addressing the world, he said that it's denazification, yeah, these 3 words that even Russians didn't understand. They changed the philosophy, now they openly say that we don't have a right to exist and we have to be killed. So for us it's very obvious, but I think it's not yet obvious for those who try, even not to support, but try to justify somehow this, you know, this aggression and the outcomes of it.
So, touching up on the topic of diplomacy, what I wanted to ask you was, do you think there are regions in the world in which Ukraine has not still worked properly with diplomacy efforts, so that, well, we already know the successful cases of great diplomacy done by Ukrainian diplomats. So we know great successful cases of Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic, the United States, the United Kingdom, mostly European countries, obviously. But do you think there are some regions that we could work on better to sort of limit the Russian influence on them? Because as we understand now, and from what you both said, is that Russian influence is everywhere. Wherever you go, there would probably be at least 2 Russian agents trying to do something that would benefit the Russian Federation and would compromise Ukraine in a way. So do you think there are some regions that we need to work on, and if yes, what are they? Anyone could start if they have an idea.
We need to work everywhere, and specifically in your countries, because Russia knows it cannot win by force anywhere. But they have these huge departments within their military intelligence, FSB, specific departments with unlimited budgets that get dedicated to every country. And they are trying to mess that country up with whatever ways they can. From morning till evening, they are thinking of new ways. In Greece, let's use our oligarchs to sponsor the far right and the biggest hooligans in Greece to have power. Czech. Let's sponsor the extreme far right and the extreme far left in France. Special operations. Let's try to create a border crisis with Poland by using Belarus, so nobody can blame it on us. And it's a relentless flow of these special, what they call information operations, that targeting each and every country. And sometimes they are not visible. And we really need to look at them critically, not conspirologically, but they exist, and try to uncover them. So for example, I'm currently trying to do a disproportionate thing. First of all, I'm trying to understand how they think. For example, I'm trying to cooperate specifically with Cuban and Venezuelan oppositions. Why? First of all, I do think that for Russia, Venezuela, for example, is the biggest success, because it is the country with the biggest oil reserves. They have absolutely crashed oil production there from 4 million barrels to 800,000, whatever they currently have, which increased the oil price. So in their minds, the profit of their Venezuelan department and FSB is extreme. And what they currently did the last time, for example, you may have saw that there's a new border crisis on the border, extreme number of illegal immigrants on the border with the US. For the very first time in history, those are not Mexicans. in the majority of those are Venezuelans. Somehow, mysteriously, in less than a year, the number of illegal crossings by Venezuelans increased by 60-fold. Is that the same thing that they are doing on the border with Belarus and Poland and with Finland? Of course. They are using their just proxy regime to mess up with the US. And it worked. Look at what was happening in US politics. Let's focus on the border first and not the aid for Ukraine. Vote on the border, not for the aid to Ukraine. It was a clear mind game from FSB. But it needs to be told, retold, reversed, and we need to pick up all these operations domestically, uncover them, prove them, and to be honest, I think you should pressure each of your government to throw away all the Russian embassies and all the Russian companies. Because for them, it's a way to infiltrate your society and to mess up with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Friends, I'll try to be practical. Point number one, I think the best diplomacy conducted is, of course, under the leadership of President Zelensky, who helped Ukraine to become a well-known brand for freedom. So, for instance, I don't have to retranslate or explain to the people where Kharkiv is, because literally many people know that it's the city under constant attacks, but still we have 1.3 million people living there and resisting. So in terms of diplomacy, I think the very last achievement was getting together 101 country and 3 largest international organizations together for the Summit of Peace in Switzerland. Regardless the efforts of Russia, it became real and it became a great project which runs further. As President mentioned recently, Russian side has received the proposals which were worked on under point number 4, and I think it's one of the hardest thing to do, because bringing back all civilians in captivity, people who are under the status of prisoners of war, and deported children, the numbers of which are terrible. It's more than 20,000. It's the official numbers. There may be more. Is crucial for Ukraine and crucial to the world, to show that the documents that were adopted 75 years ago under the Geneva Conventions, they are operational, because we have nothing else which is operational. If they don't work, what else then should work? And we're talking about the most vulnerable, for instance, children. 2 small examples. Me and Maryan, we usually travel to overseas, like for instance to the US and other countries. We can't, and it's not only about Ukraine, you can't put a case only focusing on yourself. You should understand the history of the country, the interest of the political groups, decision makers, etc. So for instance, when we traveled to US in December, and we were working in California and Arizona, 2 states that are mostly having the largest numbers of the companies who produce weapons. And our arguments were, look guys, it's like we took the data, we took your economy of 2022, we analyzed it, and we understand that a taxpayer in US, because not every citizen in the US is a taxpayer spends $500 per year to sort of support Ukraine, but it's equal to support freedom, the values that we share, and all the rest. However, everything that you produce remains in US as tax money, as creating of the jobs, and as sales contracts for us, or replacement of them through the support of other states. For instance, Canada is supporting the production of System Patriot, because Canada doesn't produce, but US does. So Canada can pay, US produces, but US receives money for that. It's not for free. Nothing is for free. A very simple case when we say, but you can't assess the loss of life. You know, I've been, me, Maryan, you as well, friends from Ukraine, we've been to so many funerals. We cannot say that, you know, this money can pay this loss. And until the moment that our partners, even the closest and furthest neighbors, will realize that it's better to pay sort of in such a way, in terms of sending weapons, refreshing your production, testing 600 types of NATO standard weapons on the ground because it's been tested. This is a fact. There's, there's factual, it's a fact, yeah, sorry. So it's better to invest in this warfare, rather than, have a loss back home or build enough troops, even though 155,000 people are newly recruited to the NATO allies. It means that the alliance is preparing. In Indonesia, where we went to bring the case, because Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world, more than 230 million people in Muslim religion. How do you bring the case of Ukraine? We started retranslating it from the peninsula of Crimea, where many Muslims were residing. Now Russia is banning the freedom of religion, the freedom of using of Crimean Tatar language, and many other things. Indonesia has gone through some of these experiences in the past, in the colonial time, and they understood why we resist this aggression, which started in Crimea. We believe it will end there as well, with the operations bringing it to free status and under control of Ukraine. But I just want to emphasize that, we can't go into 100 states and bring the same arguments. We really need to be professional. We need to know the languages. Let it be Chinese, Arabic, Japanese, I don't know, Indonesian, whichever. It brings the case better. So it shows to your counterpart or a friend or someone who you are trying to argue with that you are in depth of understanding and that you can change the position. Because otherwise, we will be taken as, someone who's arrogant and just demand. I think the chairmanship and this diplomacy of President Zelensky, who didn't travel for the first year of full scale, he just addressed partners online. It was also very powerful, but now he does travel, and I think this political stand and political support is still there. But last but not least, we need youth to be with us on this side, because you also can bring the case, you can spread the information. Because I open TikTok and I see how Russia invades our internet space. Our arguments are not working. You would take a fake photo from another state, put some sentences which are absolutely don't relate to our case, and people start liking it, and I see, like, I don't know, 500,000 likes, many gazillion million views and comments, which are destroying the unity, destroying the truth, and this is an extra weapon. We should think of how to combat it. We canceled the stroll firms in Russia. We finally banned Sputnik, Russia Today, which served in at least 10 foreign languages. But you come to France, you switch on TV when you're on a trip, and you still see Russian channels speaking to you in French. But yeah, it all takes time, friends. And the most important as well is to stay focused and not be sad when it doesn't come at once. Diplomacy is is a hard thing. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much. Well, you've brought us to a great point in which I tried to lean the conversation into, is that right now, I suppose, Ukraine is not trying to defend from a Blitzkrieg, from a fast and small war done by Russia. It now tries to win the war of attrition, which is multifaceted. It's not only on the battlefield, it's on the diplomacy area, it's inside the information warfare, it's inside propaganda and stuff. So, just finishing up this sort of discussion, what do you think, well, the Ukrainians should do now to make sure that the effort that many people put towards defending Ukraine, not only since the start of 2022, but maybe since the start of the invasion in 2014, to make sure it will not be in vain, not to make sure that we still overcome the challenge that is currently trying to compromise our entire existence as Ukrainians. What can we do now, and what should be done now?
I do believe that in the war of attrition, it's about how much money you spend per how much money spends the opposing side. And we are going through a complete revolution of drones. Everybody's talking about it, but thanks to some donors of Atlas Network, which were not done through Atlas Network, but separately, we've been able to issue like $200,000 worth of grants to develop different drones. Extremely successful. They are killing Russians left and right. Now currently actually half of the losses that Russians suffer on the battlefield are small $500 to $1,000 drones. And I'll use this as a promotion. So if you go to YouTube and search Ludwig von Mises drones, you'll find a very nice YouTube channel that I've started. What we do is we take funds from our libertarian donors from Atlas Network and we ask them, how do you want us to name a drone and how do we do the naming? So inside of the drone, in electronics, there is just a screen saying Ludwig, as a proof that his specific money were used to do this. And they specifically asked us to name them after Ludwig von Mises. So you can find on this YouTube channel 45 videos already. You will see 10 destroyed tanks, 18 APCs, anti-aircraft guns, etc. So the whole thing was not too much, that 510 drones were used for those videos. It's pretty fun. Let's do more. And if someone of you wants to play with them in Poland and fly over Kaliningrad, for example, I'll be very happy to train here you. We also are sponsoring a drone school of operators. Please learn those stuff because the war of the future will be very, very different. And it is my dream to see Russians in Kaliningrad also a little bit scared.
Maria, final words?
Friends, I think we have many missions, and regardless of the fact that we are very tired, we should not forget one thing. Every day is a gift, because you can, fall and something happens, or you can be hit by a rocket, or you can be killed in any other manner, but you just have this day when you have to make the most of it. And we have missions, every one of us. One mission can be, smiling back and thinking. Another mission can be delivering drones. Another mission will be feeding and helping people. Another mission would be talking to the most famous foundation in the world after the attack on the children's hospital, Ahmedabad, and telling them that, we need medical equipment. And the next day you receive a text message, yes, we will help for $11.2 million. I'm just giving these examples that each and every person can do something wherever you are on the planet Earth. Because meanwhile we are fighting on the ground, our planet is suffering. I'm talking about ecocide. I'm talking about the effect of this aggression and of this war. It will never be the same. The drinking water, the air pollution, maybe these things are not very, understandable and we feel it right now, but future generations will feel it. And I do hope that, with all the technological progress and development, we will never have a day when we have to fight the robots. And one last thing, I want to thank and cherish every young person from many countries who joined this fight for freedom, who skipped their trips to Thailand. I guess I know them in person, who came to Ukraine, who fight with us on different levels, not necessarily in the army, but I think different types of this war have different dimensions where we have to make the most of it. Because our existence is at stake. The existence of many states and the existence of freedom, liberty, and democracy are at stake. We shouldn't underestimate it. And thank you for dedicating your time and to be here in Lviv, Lemberg, Lviv, whichever we call this amazing city. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава! You stole my line right there, but thank you very much for your expertise, both of you. Thank you very much, not only for the expertise, for the experience, but also for the inspiration that you gave to all of us, I guess. So one more round of applause, please, to Maryan Zablotskyy and Mezentseva.